Hello from Pasadena Public Library. It's time for another story, and this story comes all the way from the land of Wales, the western part of the British Isles. And in Wales, music is very important. So is magic. And this is a story that combines both. It's called The Magic Harp. Now, Morgan was a good man. He was a good husband and a good farmer. The only thing he was not good at was singing. Oh, he loved music and he loved to sing, but he did not have a lovely voice. In fact, his singing voice was so bad that people sometimes made fun of him. Now that was unkind, especially when a really great singer said that Morgan's voice sounded like a goat being dragged backwards across broken pieces of pottery. Well, Morgan would still sing for his own enjoyment, and that was what he wanted. One day, he was sitting at home, having finished his chores in the fields. His wife was out shopping, and there was a knock at the door. And he said, "What's a door for but to come in?" And 3 men entered the house. They were dressed roughly, in rags almost, and they said, "Please, do you have something we could eat? We're hungry and we have far to go." Well, these were not ordinary men because, although Morgan did not know it, these were of the fair folk, the people whose magic filled the land. Morgan said, "There's bread and cheese on the table. Help yourselves." And he went back to singing. Well, as the men, or the fair folk, finished their bread and cheese, they said, "You seem to like music, but is there anything you'd really want if you had a chance to make a wish?" And Morgan laughed and said, "I've never had the money or the time to learn or play an instrument like the harp. I'd love to be able to play the harp." "Well," said the men, "perhaps you shall." And they went out the door, and as Morgan watched them go, he heard a thump next to him. And he turned, and there was a harp. A proper Welsh triple-strung harp. Now, this is not an easy instrument to learn, and Morgan thought it would take him years to learn, but oh, it was so beautiful. He had to touch the strings. And as he touched the strings, the harp began to play, almost as if he knew what he was doing. And he touched the strings again, and dance music came out of the harp. And it was a wonder to behold, and it was a joy to hear. And Morgan thought to himself, "Oh, this is such a fine gift." And he played and played. Well, after a little bit, in the door came his wife and a couple of her friends back from shopping, and they said, "Morgan, what are you doing?" And he said, "Look, I was given a harp." And he began to play the strings of the harp. And his wife and her friends began to dance. "Morgan, what are you doing? Why are we dancing?" "Oh," said Morgan, and he stopped. Well, not only did it make music, but the listeners had to dance. "Let me know when you'd like to dance, and I'll play for you." "Well, yes. In fact, we can invite some friends over and we can do that." That evening, a few friends came over and Morgan played the strings of the harp and they danced and they had such fun. And after each tune, he would pause and let them get their breath back and they would tell him whether they wanted to dance some more. Oh, they had such fun. And that was not the only evening when that happened. Several times, Morgan would play for the family and the friends and the neighbors. But after he'd had the harp for a while, one evening, that same fine singer, the one who'd insulted his voice, came by and said, I see you found a way to make music that doesn't sound so bad." And Morgan remembered the insults to his singing voice. And he said, Come in and share the music. The rest of you go outside for a little bit of a rest." Well, the rest of them did go outside, and Morgan began to play, and the singer began to dance. And dance, and dance. As Morgan played without a pause, the singer began to say, "Please, stop. I can't stop dancing." And Morgan laughed and laughed, and he played, and the singer said, "Please, please, I'll never say anything bad about your voice again. Please let me stop." And finally Morgan stopped, and the singer collapsed to the floor and crawled out of the door. His feet could barely work by the time he stood up. And he never came back to bother Morgan again. But the next day, when he woke up, Morgan saw that the harp was gone. You see, the fair folk don't like it if you misuse their magic. Even to get revenge for a bad thing done to you, if you misuse the magic, you lose the magic. And so Morgan lost the magic harp, but he could still sing for his own fun. And he did that as long as he lived. And that was the magic harp.